Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tapestry of Connection. I'm your host, Gena Francis, and I'm super excited today, and I'll tell you why. Because Jenny Wagner from Serenity Forest, Elgin, is joining me, and she is an animal communicator, and I'm dying to talk to an animal communicator. I know Jenny through the circles, the mediumship and things that I work in. She's phenomenal. She's an energy healer. She's a medium. She does stone healing. She does all kinds of amazing different healing modalities. She also does retreats at her beautiful property, and she's just a really remarkable woman, and I'm happy to know her, and I'm happy to have her in my circle. So welcome, Jenny.
Thank you so much. That was so sweet.
It's all true.
Yeah. It's funny. As soon as you said animal communicator, my cat starts crying. Ashlyn, do you want to come join us? Come on over, buddy. He'll probably come join us at some point.
Oh yeah, no worries. I always start, like, the first question I ask everybody is just sort of how you found your way into this work, because everybody's story is different, and I like for my viewers to get to know the person behind the work. So what sort of led you along this path?
Yeah, it's kind of been a lifelong journey. When I was young, I was a medium and I didn't understand it, so I was terrified at night. And my family was very religious. I grew up very Christian, so it was, I'd knock on the walls in my parents' bedroom and yell like I'm terrified. But they didn't understand. They were scared, and they were like, "You're fine. We don't talk about this. Like you're fine." So I kind of just pushed it away and kind of shoved it down, but I also knew that something was happening. So I got really interested, I think, growing up in the paranormal side of things, because I was trying to look for answers, and crystals and stuff like that. But it wasn't until I think when I became a therapist, I was helping people with addiction, and I was always an energy healer by trade, I think, by like naturally touching people, naturally just knowing when to touch animals. And I noticed a lot of my medical intuition came out working with people, and also just Reiki was coming out doing therapy with people. I would just know kind of when to touch, when to not touch, especially people with trauma histories. So it was kind of interesting the way things kind of progressed for me. But the animal communication wasn't until probably like 2020-ish, when my two animals were 17 years old. My two cats were like my children, and they passed away at 17, and it was devastating for me, which I knew it would be, but my grief was so bad. I was so angry that I was like, just missed them so much, and it was so hard for me. And I've struggled with depression my whole life off and on, so mental health is a big thing I talk about too. And I was like, I don't care if this is crap. This could all be lies, but I'm going to look into this and see if animal communication is a thing. No expectations, and I think that was kind of helpful, actually. So when I took a class, I was amazed that, like, it worked. And not only did it work, it opened up, like, everything else I'd been suppressing for, like, 40 years. So the door has been wide open, and hence why I think I've kind of, like, gone all over the place with different techniques and healing things, so.
That's just a phenomenal story, and I've got so much to ask about all those things. So I'll just start with, so back to mediumship when you were a kid. So would you hear people, see people that were passed on? I mean, I know you said that you tempered it down, but like, what was the first experience you remember with that, or talking to your parents and them telling you? I'm just curious about how it presented in your childhood.
Yeah, it was interesting because even talking to my parents about it now, like they remember more than I do. So I'm like, you didn't find that concerning at all that I was doing all these behaviors? And they're like, we didn't know. So it's okay. But I would see them in my room. So I would see people all around my bed. And I had stuffed animals and my covers, and I was terrified. But I'd also feel like, I felt like cobwebs touching me, which I still get off and on, and also hear them. So I wouldn't be able to always understand them, though. And I think part of the problem is I was just so overwhelmed by it that I would try to hide. So every night I'd sleep in a different room, hoping they wouldn't be able to find me, but just not understanding like what was happening. So I think one of the things that was interesting about like the paranormal connection is they had a TV show on the Travel Channel called Paranormal Kids. And I watched an episode where there's a little boy did the same thing. He moved from room to room so they couldn't find him. And it just like clicked back so much, like, wow, just healed some piece in me. And that I loved that people were giving back to kids and helping families understand that, and that was something that I kind of became passionate about too. Because
Wow.
again, there's so
Oh.
many things that you just might not understand with your kids because you don't think about it.
We always talk about they're way more open to experiences when they're kids because they haven't learned, to shield things down or to push things away, and so they're just much more an open receiver, I think, when they're small. And so you first went into counseling, but you were using your intuitive gifts through there. Like it kind of goes hand in hand, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and one of the things, well, I particularly ended up working in addictions, and so that's grief heavy. People with the opiate epidemic are dying worse than ever in the era that I worked in substance treatment. So I think that was really helpful in the way of working with families in grief, working with people in grief. But I had, like I said, depression since I was young and ADHD undiagnosed.
Diagnosed as a young person, so right there with you.
Yeah. Which also makes you more open to sensitive things, I think, and more feedback options, the way they can communicate with you. So I knew that I wanted to work with kids from a young age because I felt like nobody could understand or help me. So I did. I went into that straight away. I was like the youngest person in my graduate school with my master's degree, and ended up in the field right away at 18, volunteering all the way through, 27 years of it.
Oh, wow.
Every time I tried to leave, I would end up back or, helping the staff this time versus clients. But I do feel like the counseling component was hugely beneficial, not only for the ethics piece of it, to know like boundaries and how to not give too much and how to say no and all of those things, but also to just give the utmost highest level of care too.
Yeah.
It just adds another level to it. And so of course I kept my degrees and my licensure open for Illinois, and still substance abuse and mental health general counseling.
And so with substance abuse, and was there someone in your history that had that made you gravitate towards that? Or was that just something that you saw in your environment? Like what led you to lean in that direction?
I had a hard time understanding my parents, and I think that I was too smart for my own good as a kid. When you're an empath, you know when people are lying to you, you know when people are giving you the runaround, and that's been a whole lifelong issue for me because people just lie all the time. So it's like, okay, I know that's not true, so I'm just gonna let it go. So I think trying to understand my parents made me ask more questions about it, and made me look into more aspects of addiction and how it goes down the family tree, and how my grandparents were alcoholics, not all of them, some of them, and how that impacted like my mother growing up, and how I could see my dad go into workaholism and my mom go into like all this avoidance codependent behaviors. So it was interesting to see how all of that would impact the family and myself. And I was home alone all the time because they worked all the time. And I just took a lot into that as far as why do they have these behaviors, and just trying to understand them. So I do have a lot of addiction in the family, but not necessarily like in the home. My brother ended up being a very serious, I don't think he would say addict, but he struggled with substances off and on throughout his teens and 20s.
There's so much of your story that I resonate with. I was ahead of my grades in different points in life and was the youngest of all, so same thing, but undiagnosed ADHD. I turned to substances at 13. I learned later on in life that's a way of self-medicating when you're different, when you feel too much, when you're empathic, when you, at least for me, you don't feel right in the world. I got sober at 17 and have been ever since. And so it was a short period, but that really was one of the first times I started opening up to different ways to reach spirit and communicate with the God of my understanding, as they say. For me, that was a place where I really started to understand my connection and my empathy. So I wonder if you encounter a lot of empaths and people who didn't know they had, they didn't know why they were this way. I wonder if in your addiction treatment time, if that was a common thing.
Yeah, I could also see patterns in myself where I could definitely go down that road as well in many aspects. So yeah, I don't think it missed me. I think I was just more self-aware of it and tried to reel it in at times. But that's amazing that you got sober so young. That's hard work.
It's nothing I did. I was presented the opportunity to make a change. And for whatever reason, my path was to make a change early and sort of start working through some of those issues. I think there's a lot of us that come to this work that have a lot of things in our background, maybe being misunderstood or maybe not being able to find our place. You found your place.
I feel like I often have to like create my place because it doesn't exist yet. And that's something that I encourage people to do as create your own place. That's how I created Serenity Forest. But just really quick to jump back, I did notice the trend of that working with 20-year-olds, working at teen centers even for addiction. Empaths, so many of them were self-medicating. So many of them were psychic and just self-medicating. Mediums and they just didn't understand, there's not, even back then there wasn't as much meditation and energy healing as there is now. Mm-hmm. So I'd have to go in kind of the sideways route where we're in sensory regulation, which we did, but we also were like, and here's how you can use crystals, and here's how you can use meditation. So I incorporate a lot of that into my work too, over the years and currently. So that's been a nice training ground, but I have noticed that commonality for many.
What a gift they had to have you to be their counselor, to be able to understand them and come from a place where you knew from your own lived experience of ways to help them sort of learn more about who they are. I think that's fantastic. When did you really I'm going to lean into the mediumship and I'm bringing it back. When did you sort of first realize okay, that stuff that happened when I was a little kid, I'm going to open myself up to it?
I'd say about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But I think, again, I was getting medical intuition all the time. I would have a lot of those instances where I'd tell people, you need to go to the hospital for this, and it would be accurate. So I'd have those moments where I'm like, okay, maybe I should look into this. But I think the religious programming was still so strong. And, you can talk to animals that are crossed over, but not people, because that's, the last frontier, and you don't want to, go open that door. So I kind of, went around every door until finally I felt like Spirit was like, Jenny, you're already doing it, just do it. So then I think probably about maybe 3 years ago, I finally was like, okay, I need to, of course, being licensed, being trained, that whole process in my brain. That's how I found our teacher that we've both worked with and joined her group, because I wanted professional training on how to be a medium correctly, which now I know it's not a thing. But
it helps you find a group that you can practice. We're very fortunate that I met you that way, and we get to meet this whole new group of people and go through the experience together of learning. I feel lucky that I was able to be in such a supportive group with you and others. So I have seen some of your amazing photography from your place, Serenity Forest. Just beautiful, beautiful nature. But you also, when you take photographs, you often see orbs, and you often see what you call elementals. And I was wondering if you could explain because even some people who might know about some of the stuff we talk about, that might be a new frontier. So what's that like?
It's funny. I was kind of thinking about this earlier today I feel like I keep reaching these new frontiers that I'm like, that's not my box. That's outside my box. And I keep going into new boxes. And I think back and I'm like, I guess I've always been kind of the weird one, always. And so that makes sense that I'm, okay, keep going. But, which I'm fine with because I'm used to it. And it's just been beautiful to see. I love nature. This house, this place, Serenity Forest, I found it because of the big tree behind the house. It's this enormous, beautiful, huge silver maple tree. And now it has meditation stones around it. And it's this beautiful centerpiece for growth and healing. But being in the woods, being in nature, and also loving animals, I feel like you're more prone to experiencing elementals. And so, all different cultures talk about them in different ways. It could be the fire djinn, it could be fairies, the fae. Ireland and Scotland openly talk about this, everybody's familiar. It's not a weird concept, but here in America, the US, we just don't talk about these kinds of things. So water, how you can, water sprites, or just the different things in the air that you can hear, pixies, will-o-wisps. So there's all these different trolls, elves, mythical folklore, however you want to look at it, but all these different cultures have the same thing. So I've always loved that stuff. I've always loved it in general, and I thought it was very interesting that the last several years I've started to get stuff on video and photography. And I started hearing them, of course, take pictures here, take pictures there, share this. So, okay. And I started getting more and more and more. And now I've been doing drumming outside. Even more fairies, I feel like, and I get them on video, and the stills are just amazing. So it's been really cool to show people that who are like, that's a little bit much. Yep, it sure is, but like, here you go. Seeing. And I see a lot of it with my eyes, so it's been really nice to, and I always have seen energy like with my eyes, so that was really nice to get it on film and the camera, because I'm like, oh, I'm really not crazy. I really am seeing some of these flashes of color and flashes of things just move very fast, and it's hard to catch it unless you're still shotting it.
I believe you put a lot of them on your Instagram. It's just gorgeous. Like when I'm looking through, not only that you're capturing these orbs and things like that, but for me, when I'm looking at the photo, it's just there's this strong sort of peaceful energy that comes through the photos that you take, when you feel almost called to the land of the pictures you're taking, at least from my own experience. So how do elementals interact with people? Like if for somebody who doesn't understand like what their role is. I mean, a lot of people will understand the role of spirit guides. A lot of people will understand angels and people who've crossed on. So what role do the elementals play in the whole dance that we do with the unseen or the seen, but on a different frequency?
Yeah, and my experience with them has just been that they are caretakers of the land and they are willing to help. Also, to be respected. So there's things that they have, like a tree, for instance. When we first moved into this house, it had been abandoned for a couple of years. So the yard, it was like 5 acres, but it was a mess and never had been taken care of for years. So I cut down a tree, which was in the middle of like the front door, so you had to kind of. But I planted like 1,000 more trees and also all the flowers and bushes you could ever imagine. But that tree was special to them and they were not happy about it. So we had lots of issues in the beginning with flooding and water, and it was like no one could figure it out. It was like a whole thing for months. And then also what was really weird about the water thing is I guess that was an issue like 100 years ago too, with the water in Elgin being highly iron heavy. So it was like toxic, and we didn't know all the filtrations were broke here, so we were drinking toxic water too. We found that out. It was a couple months, but it's just so interesting, these like ties that you end up finding out later, like that relate to the past, can relate to now, and also like they're helping us realize like, oh, your water is bad, like get it fixed. And I'm thinking they're destroying my house, what are you doing? So I've had to like stop and listen and not assume. And I've done that by going outside and connecting with nature. You can do like little offerings, shiny things, milk, honey. There's a lot of different literature on things that you can offer. I found that to be all of those that I've tried to be helpful. Even just the act, the intention of, I notice you, I respect you, I'm giving you this, because that just mutual respect. And they were appeased. So now we haven't had any water issues since. But some of the stuff too was like, again, so strange to me in the beginning until I learned more. And then when I went to England, it was so nice to talk to so many people who were like, oh yeah, you can't do that. You got to ask first. I'm like, oh, it was so normalized. I'm like, oh, great.
I'm going to Scotland in the early fall, and I'm so excited to go to the Isle of Skye and go to the fairy pools and everything. So, I'm hoping I'll get to feel some special connection to the land there. But it's amazing that you're able to communicate with them. And so now I want to jump to animal communicating, because I think that that's really rich with all kinds of things. So you're having clients that you're bringing in that have lost pets that you're communicating on the other side, and then you're also helping people who have pets in the here and now that may have problems or health issues or behavioral issues. You help them figure that out. Is that right?
Yeah, it's funny because people always are either haven't heard of it or assume it's something different potentially than it is. So it's telepathic communication. The animal does not have to come with them, does not have to be here. The animal can be alive or in spirit, and so if it's crossed over, we can do like a mediumship reading basically. And if they're still here, I have like a series of things that I'll go through and ask them. But it's still connecting telepathically, so it's still like the same process as it would be if they were crossed over, which I think sometimes people get weirded out by or are surprised by. And animal communicators all have different ways of connecting. Some need a picture. I just need the animal's name, what species, like dog, cat, and if they're alive or in spirit. And then I can just kind of go from there, connect in with them in my space, in my mind. And we go from there, and I get them evidence and share the information with the family. So there's been if there's an animal that's in pain, trying to figure out what that is. And of course, always recommend them go to a vet
Yeah.
first and foremost. But still, sometimes the information's helpful because it's not an avenue the vet considered and can validate potentially. If they're open to that. And some are really open to that. So that's been interesting too, to see how many people might be open to that you wouldn't think in the field of veterinary science.
And so, like, when you're talking to them, just so people can understand, you're connecting to their energy, and then you're able to have the conversation with them. Do they talk like they're giving you, like, language, or is it more like, oh, I feel that they're letting me feel that they're in pain, or are they saying, please tell my owner that I don't like that food?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's the way that I was trained and also believe is that animals are, they've mastered unconditional love. So they're really here just to help us grow. So they help us with our soul contracts. They help us with being present. They help us with a lot of different things. We all have soul missions that we're working on with these animals. And a lot of times that's part of the reading that I give is, what is that? And how are they doing that with you? Even when they're crossed over, they're still helping. So what does that, look like? And then sometimes people are like, oh no, I don't want to know all that. I just want to know about my animal. And that's fine too. But because they've mastered perfect love and because they've teaching us these soul lessons, it's typically like things that we need to work on. And I don't think people expect that. It's like therapy where a parent brings their kid and they're like, fix my kid. But it's a family system issue, actually. Everybody's got to jump in here. And it's kind of like that with animals too. It's like, they're like, fix my animal. I'm like, yeah, but it's also going to be like a reciprocal energy thing with you as well because you're involved in this process. So that I think is funny. Some of the similarities there, but yeah, so I do think that helps.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, even when you're going to like puppy training or, if you're dog training, I mean, the owner has to learn, it's their energy that's affecting the dog. That's what they'll tell you. You see something that you get nervous about and you pull the leash, you cause the dog to be reactive. The dog might not have been reactive, but it feels your energy and then responds accordingly. So what you're saying goes hand in hand with that. Like it's a dance between the owner or the human and the animal. So that makes perfect sense to me that would be how it is. Are there instances that really stand out for you where you've been able to really help, or ways that it proved to you, or not proved to you, but let the person know, oh my gosh, that really is my animal talking to me?
Sure. And just to jump back to answer your other question, because I think I took us off the road, I do get the information from them in all different ways. They access the same, I think as regular spirit does, human spirit, where they're using your memories, songs, all sorts of things. So it could be seeing, it could be just knowings. I get a lot of knowings too, which, as you know, can be difficult because you're like, do I know this? Am I sure?
Right.
I spit it out just because I know to. Even if it's a different language, like the owner speaks Spanish, like I'll hear it in English. I know that's something that I get asked a lot, like, how will you know? And I'm like, they tell it to me in a way I understand it. I also set that intention. Sometimes it's kind of interesting because I, again, try not to put assumptions into it. I'll see like a red ball or a red round thing, and I'll assume it's a ball. And then the family's like, actually, no, their favorite toy wasn't a ball, it was a red Frisbee. I'm like, oh, well, that's still in red. Okay, it's just different in some ways, but it's the same in so many, the way we get information. Some of the standout moments, I think, though, for me, was when I was first starting in some of the classes and also just my own practices and exercises with people. There was one where we had to do like a GoPro. Like we had to see ourselves in the animals, like eyes, basically, as like a GoPro around the house and like ask the animal, what do they want us to know or what do they want us to see? And so it was like this very strange house where it had like a hole in the wall to the outside, but it wasn't like a door, it wasn't a window. And I was like, what? I don't know what this is, but it was clearly a hole in the wall it was jumping in and out of. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to say it. And I was telling the girl this, and she just like, you could tell when people are like, oh my God. Her whole face changed. She's like, how do you know that? I'm like, the cat's telling me. And sure enough, they were going to put a window in, so they knocked a hole through the wall, but it wasn't ever finished. And so then they had it kind of like taped off, and it was kind of like a odd situation that just always has been for the last couple of years. She's like, and the cat does go in and out of that, and that's a problem. It's really funny. That's like something that you might think is crazy, but ended up being validated. And I had another instance where one of our teachers wanted to know about her animals, and I was getting this cat who had a top hat, a monocle, and was like, the whole cigar, talking in an accent, like old Hollywood. And I was like, oh my God, I can't. This is going to sound crazy. And I was just like waiting for everybody else to share theirs. I'm like, maybe someone else will say it. No. And then finally I'm like, okay, I need to say it. She started crying. And I was like, oh gosh, this was important to her. And she gave all her cats names. This one was Bella Lugosi. She gave them all like top hats, monocles, or different outfits. They all had a personality and an accent. And she said that accent totally fit with him. And it all made sense to her, and she was like, this is fantastic. I was hoping to hear from him. So if I would have censored that and never shared that with her because of my own like fear and doubt, she would have missed this healing opportunity and this moment where she could really like connect with her animal that passed over. I've learned, like, the crazier it is, just say it, Jenny.
There are so many instances where I'm like, I can't say this, and then it comes back, it keeps coming back around. It's a trust process with us, with spirit, that is constantly evolving to a stronger trust bond with spirit. Like the more we trust that and share it, the more we receive. But when you're first stepping out onto that ledge and flying without a net, like, it was one of the most terrifying times when I'm first having to give information that's really strange, and I don't understand it. And then the person, like, it's always that's the thing that makes the connection, that makes them believe. So I think maybe spirit gives you these weird and wonderful things to share with them, just to reassure the sitter that we're not full of, what. There's still that human side that comes in and, wants to talk you out of it. So for everybody that's listening, if you're new to this, you just have to trust. And the more you do this and the more you put it out there, the stronger your connection will become, and the more you will be able to know and help and have that confidence in which to do this work. They can see spirits, right? Dogs and...
Yeah, they can see all different spectrums of light that we can't see.
So do you see that your animals, and you let people know that, like, they can see what we can't see sometimes?
Yeah, especially if you have like one of the family members, one of the animals is crossing over, and the other ones are very sad and like gonna lose their brother or sister. That's been interesting too, because it seems like a lot of them will gather around in those moments, and then even afterwards you'll see them like in the corners of the room, or like interacting, or even like looking up afterward. Like, there's been so many instances like that where it's been really beautiful to almost see it from their eyes and their perspective of, oh yeah, they're still coming and going. I still deal with them. And I've done a lot of readings too where the other animals are like, I don't miss them because I see them all the time. They're still taking the, like, they're still annoying me. Like, they're still there. And I think one of the coolest things I got when I got 2 other cats, I waited, a year, and I was like, I have to get a cat. I can't. So I got 2, of course, and they each have like a piece of the previous cat, I think, within them. But what was really interesting was one kitten was like on one thing and one kitten was on another. And there's this picture I took of them where you can see my cat Tabby, who passed away, like in like ether, but like definitely a cat, definitely orange, definitely like in the middle, like the same position she'd always be in. Almost like these 2 are gonna be trouble, so I'm helping. It was like the most beautiful picture.
That's awesome.
I was like, I treasure it. It was so cool. So I do think they come back and help too, and kind of regulate and make sure that the animals are going to behave, and show them the ropes a little bit if they need to.
On a little different topic, we talk about often the best healers who have had a lot of stuff happen in their life. You have talked about the health challenges and navigating the health challenges. I myself have had chronic health issues, and I find it informs my experience better and helps me be more compassionate, more giving, but what's it like having to navigate that? And do you find that it has helped you with your clients and with others, and with your practice? Do you find it infuses your practice as well?
Yeah, I always try to use everything I can as a positive, but of course there's those days where you're like, why do I have everything wrong with me? Because I'm always the 1%. I'm always allergic to everything. The biggest thing I had is an eye injury from my brother, who shot me through the eye with a paper clip off a rubber band. So don't do that, people, please. Please don't do that. It's not good. So, 8 surgeries, 9 surgeries later, it turned into glaucoma, and now it's the other eye was jealous, so the other eye wanted it as well. And so now it's both eyes, which can happen with trauma. But as a kid, they didn't know how to treat it because they are used to elderly. So everything they tried to do kind of backfired. And I lost a lot of vision on the sides, the peripheral. But that's okay. It's just interesting, though. The more I learned, the more I was suppressing my gifts. I was not wanting to see what I could do. And I think it's interesting that I had issues with my eyes. So that's not lost on me, that kept coming back up as like, you're psychic. You could help people with this. Like I kept hearing that from people and I'm like, oh no, not me. That's not me. I actually got told most recently that I had a background doing oracle work. And it's interesting because I've always talked about, like in a past life, I've always talked about, the Matrix and the oracle just in jest. And I had a cat glaucoma that I had said, she's the oracle, I had a little hat for her. And it was just funny to hear that in a reading. I'm like,
yeah.
It's an interesting theme. But the chronic pain piece of it that happened with all the surgeries, that actually I was angry at in the beginning. But once I think I started to realize, like, I made the choices that I made to come here and these lessons I wanted to learn. So, of course, I would pick the hardest ones. Of course, I would pick the ones where I could impact the most people. Like, of course, I would pick the ones that, like, I can do it. I can do this. Like, I'll be the one that checks out. So once I learned that I probably had a hand in that, I really had to work on forgiving myself. And that was huge. It was a huge shift in my anger to understanding and love and self-compassion, which was just such a healing moment for me. And I do think that the chronic pain has been helpful because there's so many people like in addiction who have chronic pain issues but can't take opiates or can't take certain things. And so I've also got into Taoist medicine because I didn't want to take opiates. I wanted to learn more natural ways to function and do my work. So that has led me down so many different cool avenues, and I would never have gone down without the pain.
We have so many similarities. It's almost spooky to me as you're talking because, I am also that person that when they go to tell you at the doctor's office and they say, oh, well, don't worry, I have a 99% chance or 98 whatever percent chance. And I'm like, you don't understand. I am always that outlier 1%, and so 1% is 100% to me, right? And that's the thing but I lost my kidney when I was pregnant with my daughter and found out I had a genetic illness that is lifetime, and had the same thing where I was angry and why, because I had already gone through so many things and the why and the whatever. And then same thing where you realize I asked to come in with this soul contract, right? I asked to have all of these difficult lessons because it changes who you are in a good way if you allow it to. But I remember at one point saying, I can be a diseased person or I can just be a person that has a disease. And in my mind, making that decision, it freed me to go on and live the best life that I could. And it's afforded me the ability to do so much self-work that has led me to this path to be able to be more open. I never would have done a podcast and put this information out there, never in a million years. But I find there's a reason why we went through all of these things. And there's a statement in one of the 12-step programs. It's we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. And at first I remember thinking, not regret. Of course, everybody has regrets and everything. But in the place that I am in now, I look back and I'm like, no, every piece of that was a piece of the thread that made me who I am today. But you said that stone medicine, so I wanted to go back to stone medicine. It's nice having two ADD people here together to,
Yeah, I'm with you. I can jump.
So what is stone medicine, the Taoist stone medicine that you talked about, that's something people might not know about?
So I've always had an interest in rocks and stones since I was a kid. Just always felt like there was energy in them and a charge in them, and just always felt like they were helpers. So that was interesting to me. As I progressed in my teens and my 20s, I did a lot of work with crystals. But at that level, it's just reading the things and feeling what you're feeling and using intuition. It's not a deep knowledge passed down from ancestors and lineage. But I found a woman who teaches stone medicine, and it's from the Taoist tradition, and she's been trained from a family that has carried it forward, oral tradition, into now she's teaching it written and everything as well. And it's beautiful. It's really just deepens your understanding of how to work with the stones. Of course, it goes through why the stones conduct certain things and how to take care of them, all of those basic things, but also deeper into a lot of the different body points and how they can release like the chi and how they can open up channels in your chakras and how there's so many more chakra points than we usually know about. And I think really working with the stones has helped me see some more of the elementals and be more present with them, because I do a lot of work on the land with stone medicine, for protection and for healing. And there's so many ceremonies and rituals you can do with stones to learn from them and to get knowledge from them, which we're not taught typically. There's just like so many things you can do, and I use that with Reiki in a session to help people heal.
Yeah, I use various crystals in Reiki because I've always sort of resonated with them. Everything's energy, so everything has an energy signature. If you open yourself up, you can hold one crystal and hold a different crystal, and they'll have completely different vibrations. And, one may resonate with you that doesn't resonate with someone else. It's like, it's a really fascinating thing. And I use them on the different chakras, and quartz is a good cleanser overall, but there's all kinds. And so it's interesting that you're incorporating that also. It seems like you've just weaved in more and more layers into your work, and it's phenomenal. Yeah.
With the Reiki too, at first I started feeling like I wanted to do it a little bit different. I'm like, I don't know if that's okay, but I'm going to just follow my intuition. And then I added in the stone medicine to it. And now I'm getting like messages while I'm doing it from the body, from spirit, from higher beings. And if people are open to that and want that, then I'll share those messages as we're going. So it's been an interesting combination how things progress. But yeah, I feel like sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I should meld all these things. And I keep getting the reinforcement of like, yes, this is where you're supposed to be. This is what you're supposed to be doing. The people who need to find you will find you, and keep going with it. And that's been really cool because I've learned so much. I met with a woman who is kind of a mentor to me several years, maybe 5 years ago, when she told me, you're going to be doing this stuff too. You're going to be following up with this. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, right. Because I see her for Reiki and for my chronic pain. And she's like, you're totally psychic. And she did a test with me with crystals, like from another room. She's like, what crystal am I holding? I'm like, okay, lady, fine. And every single one I got, and I was like, no crap.
Yeah.
That's weird. So it's like slowly, like my mind has been like, okay, maybe there's something to this. And of course, that led me even further on the journey with stones as well.
Well, I love how you're just so open to like, yeah, I'll try, like you're so open and open-minded to welcome all the different things in. And I think that's a remarkable quality to have, because, you're not allowing outside forces or things to tell you what you need to believe. You're saying, I'm going to go through and I'm going to experience and then I'm going to decide. And I think that's a very strong quality. I think for me, what it brings up is Reiki's now being brought into hospitals. It's all the things that 15, 20 years ago people would turn their nose up at as being junk science or whatever. Maybe one day they'll be able to scientifically explain how we are able to tap into this stuff. But you can't deny the fact that we get these messages. And then when they prove to be valid, to me, it's very hard to understand how you could talk that away as being, I know what you get. Oh, that's coincidence. Or, my favorite is if a medium gets somebody's name and stuff. Oh, they could Google you before I'm like, what? They're going to Google my whole family life history and go up all the way my family tree and find, So I really commend you for just having such an open mind to explore all these different modalities, because it's people like you that will help other people along the way to learn to embrace animal communication, embrace the stone medicine. So really just to say that I think you're fabulous.
Oh, thank you. But I tell people, like, sometimes people are scared to share those medical messages because, of course, no one wants to get sued or whatever. But, like, I had an experience to that where we had the speakeasy being built downstairs for, people to stay and do events here. And the contractor, he just looked great at me. And I was like, you need to go to the hospital, you're having a stroke. And normally, like, the logical side of Jenny is like, that's going to be a lot of money for this guy if I'm wrong. Like, that's going to be terrifying to him if I'm wrong. Like, all the things. But I'm like, I wouldn't have gotten that message if I wasn't supposed to share it. And it was so strong. It was like an urgency. And the guy looked at me like I was nuts, and that's fine. And then he was like, I'm fine. But he kind of looked at me like, I'll keep an eye on it. I'm like, okay. 2 days later, he came back, and he looked like he was on death's door. He was so gray and so sweaty, and I was like, man, I will drive you to the hospital. Like, you can't be here. I'm not allowing you to work. You need to go to the hospital. And at that point, he started losing function on his left side. And so he was like, I think I'm going to go. I'm like, great. So he went to the hospital, and he had had 2 aneurysms that had burst, and he had had already 2 strokes because of that, and probably would have died by the end of the day. So they ended up putting him into surgery, found a bunch of other stuff going on. And then after the fact, the guy called me like every day from the hospital to check in. And he was just like, how did you know that? I'm like, I don't know. I just did. And I just knew I needed to tell you. He's like, well, you know, my brother died at like 40 something from a stroke. I was like, what? Why wouldn't you hear that and then go, oh, shoot, I should go too? But that was another amazing moment where I was like, I need to not be afraid of being sued, the outcome, like sharing it, just share it.
And I think you do the same thing like I do when you're in a session or whatever. You say, I am not, I always preface it, I am not a doctor. I encourage you after whatever I tell you to please see your practitioner. I am telling you, do what you will with the information that I am giving you. I just happen to, and I could be very wrong. I could be totally wrong, but I feel an ethical responsibility at the same time to share this with you, just like you did with that man. And same thing, someone very, very close to me. I just knew they needed to go to the cardiologist. I knew that there was something going on. Like at the cardiologist, at first they didn't want to do more than just a regular EKG, and something made me persist, persist. And it's a good thing that we persisted. Now, that wasn't me. This is the thing I always need to remind people too, is it's not me. It's coming to me as sort of the translator of the information. I don't have some special power that other people don't have either. Everyone has this ability. And I think the danger sometimes is like when we talk about this, I'm not trying to elevate myself at all. I am just a conduit for the information because I work on myself enough that I'm open enough that the information comes through. So I always sort of say that too, so that my ego stays right-sized,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think again, like if looking at 12-step stuff, like ego is a big piece of that word that always clicks into my mind as well. But everything, is not from me, is like through me. I started teaching, I had no community in person. So I started a women's intuition circle. And now I've got 2 circles, and I'm going to have to open a 3rd, which is amazing. And I can't believe it. It's only been not even a year. And it's so funny. All of these women are like, I don't think I have this, but I'm interested in it. And I'm like, you have it. We all have it. It's, it's just a matter of someone else validating it and helping you not feel crazy.
Exactly.
And it's been beautiful to see people start to like listen to themselves, trust themselves, get into that process, and then use that intuition to help themselves and other people too. Yeah. So it's kind of like that chain reaction of like, it's not from us, but we can continue to connect other people to that same source.
Well, carry the message, right? I mean, and that's the thing is that I feel like once you are awakened to this, you have a responsibility to carry the message because you've been entrusted. Everybody should want to help make themselves feel better. And if there's a way that you can learn Reiki for yourself, you don't even have to be a practitioner. But if it helps heal, I'm happy to be looked at as crazy by some circles because I know it's not. And I'm at the point where I don't care anymore what people think because intuition is a beautiful thing and we do all have it. And for anybody listening, just try a little bit of meditation. You don't have to try big things. You could do a 5-minute meditation. You could try just asking for help. Spirit team, help me. That's all you have to say. Spirit team, help me. And you may not believe there's a spirit team out there, but try it. Say it. See what happens. There's all different people on the spirit team. I've talked about this before, but you can ask them for the littlest of things and they will help you, but you have to ask. I just think it's phenomenal that you are doing the work that you do. And I would love for people to be able to find you. So you want to tell everybody how they can get in touch with you?
Yeah, my website's probably easiest, serenityforestelgin.com. And that's the best way. It's got all the different services, upcoming events. We do all sorts of events here. Retreats for the equinox. There's places for people to spend the night if you're from out of town. Very fun 1920s themed speakeasy. And also a yurt that's coming soon, which will be fun. Also willing to take phone calls, willing to do Zoom. If you just have a question, like, I'm very open, and again, the goal is to help. So we do scholarships for that reason too. If people have trouble affording any services, that's something that we offer. I'm not great with technology. I have Facebook. I have Serenity Forest Elgin and Alchemy Speakeasy on Facebook. And then I also do have an Instagram. I'm not good with Instagram. But I also have a TikTok. And all the feral animals and the forest animals that come and I take care of are very popular on TikTok.
Oh, tell me about your animals. I want to know all about what all do you have in your little group out there?
So, up to 20 feral cats that we take care of. I do think people dump them in the forest, but I also think that they find me and they talk. And they're like, hey, come over here. So in the winter, we have a bunch of heated houses and heated bowls and everything like that. I do worry about them because of coyotes. So some of the kittens that come, we've now got all the cats spayed and neutered, so there won't be as many kittens. And anything that's like been a white cat, because we have some beautiful Siamese cats, I took in, basically socialized, and have now adopted out. So just trying to help keep everybody safe. But yeah, we have like 20 feral cats, probably 30 raccoons, multiple possums, and they all eat together. There's video of them all sitting out and hanging out. Nobody hurts each other. Nobody eats each other. And it's beautiful. And then the deer come, and we have paths in the forest too, because there's a creek. And I have a great video of the deer and the cat like walking together down the path. I'm like, it's your friend. It's just beautiful to see. Just to care for these animals is a privilege and an honor. And I love that they will come to the deck and sleep on the deck, and that I can kind of keep an eye on them, and that they check in with me, and it's just really special. So.
You're amazing, Jenny. And I think just getting to know you more through this, I mean, I knew a lot about you before, but I just think you've got such a beautiful heart and just so much love to give. And I think for anybody that's listening, if you've got animal questions, this is your lady. If you've got healing needs, I just really encourage people to check out your website, check out your work, and I'm just in awe of you and so very grateful for your time.
I also am in awe of you, and I'm really, really grateful for this opportunity to talk with you and do this. So thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for being with us. And if you can, drop a like, follow, or share this podcast. If you need to get in touch with me, you can do so at spirituallightwisdom.com. Remember, we're all connected, and these are just some of the stories that weave us together. For the Tapestry of Connection, I'm Gena Francis. Until next time.